It was 1990. I got out of my car. The concrete building in front of me was very intimidating. Eerily, it was really quiet though. I could hear the chain and rope of the flagpole flag tinging against the pole. That ting, ting, every time the flag moved, I could hear that. I could hear the sound of my uniform rubbing as my thighs touched as I briskly walked to the front door. I could hear that. But everything else was tuned out. It was kind of eerie. The building, like I said, was unassuming. You walk in the front door, and it looked like an office building. Never know otherwise. Go through the lobby, there's a desk. You check in, sign your name in, and in front of you, there's another office with a glass window. This was not normal. Like, what's going on? Inside this office was an officer. He was wearing a uniform, watching, looking around, head swiveling, always on guard. And then there was a door to the right of him. I walked in the door, went up a flight of concrete stairs, and out another door. And when I went out this door, I was in a giant courtyard. This was called the Mile, or how they referred it as Main Street. Main Street was concrete on all sides, from the concrete floor to the concrete walls on the side. But you look up and there's nothing but blue sky. And you look ahead, 100 yards easily of concrete on Main Street. And at the other end, a tower. Yes, a tower of concrete with someone standing there, just looking at him. What is he doing? What is he holding? Or is it a woman? I can't tell. I'm 100 yards away. I start walking thinking, where am I going? I don't know where to go. And then I look to my right and there's a building. Actually, it's a doorway attached to the building. And it says infirmary. Medical. Guess that's where I'm going. I start heading to this building, walk in, and I'm not in Kansas anymore, Toto, because there is an officer, and in front of the officer is a bunch of chairs. And then on the other side is what looks like a church pew. And sitting on these chairs are people, all dressed in the same color, all dressed in prison uniforms. Yep, I am inside of a prison. And it's my first day working inside the medical unit of a maximum security male prison. Now, it's not like I've never been in prison before. Ha ha, no pun intended. My mother worked in that prison a few years before me and actually opened it up, meaning it was the new maximum security prison. At that time, maybe 3 years old. She was there when it opened. So I have not been to the old prison, which really looked like a dungeon. This was no dungeon. It was modern by its standards. And you would not know it's a prison except for the razor wire glistening above this tall structure. Not a castle, just a concrete building. It was a prison. So I worked in the medical unit there, trying to find my niche. You know, my mom was a single mother, and growing up, I always remembered her wanting us to do something that would support us if we ever became single moms or single, or stayed that way throughout our life. You know, an engineer, an electrician, something that was going to earn me an income, become a career, and something that I could do forever and not have to worry. But in my heart, I wanted to do law enforcement. I wanted to be a policeman, maybe a detective, maybe CSI. But back then, you didn't really hear about too many women in law enforcement. So I figured let me try medicine in some capacity, but within law enforcement, kind of the best of both worlds for a woman. So I said, you know what? Let me become a medical assistant. If I like it, maybe I'll go to nursing school. So I started working in the prison, and I liked it. It was interesting. And at first, you kind of look over your shoulder. You're very jumpy and scared and skittish. You don't know what to expect. These are inmates. These are convicted killers, felons, rapists, murderers, pedophiles. These are the worst of the worst. But for some odd reason, there was a level of respect that people working in medicine and women gained and earned by these inmates. For some reason, they were very respectful towards us. They didn't harass us. They didn't call us names. They weren't violent. It was very interesting. And I appreciated it. In turn, I gave respect. No favors. Never saying, yes, I'll do that. No. The word was always no. It's easier to say no to an inmate and then possibly change it to sure, I could do that, than to say yes, and now you're bound. So I gained their respect, treated each and every one of them the same, no favoritism, and in turn, they gave me respect. And it made my working life much easier. But still, you maintain that sense of always being on point, always being on guard, because you never know when a bad apple may hit. You never know when inmates may fight each other and you're caught in the middle of it. You just never know. So you're always on that eggshell, teetering, waiting for it to crack, but hoping after 8 hours the eggshell stays whole and you go home safely. You do your 8, you walk through the gate, and you go home. That's the whole concept of working in a prison. Get home safely at the end of the day. That's what I wanted. Every day was to get home safely. Do my work, do it well, be respected, be professional, but get home after 8 hours. And so I did. I learned all the ropes. I went above and beyond. I did temperatures, pulse, blood pressure, charting, paperwork. I did it, but I wanted to learn more. I wanted to be that sponge. So I also looked into the law enforcement side of it. I watched the officers. I watched how they got along with each other. And in the meantime, as a medical professional, we also had to go to training, the same training the officers got. How to report right, how to take control of your keys in a prison setting, how just everything an officer, preventing suicide in the workplace, anything an officer went to, we went to. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about report writing. And I did pretty well in school, not to pat myself on the back. I was a gifted student. They call it AGT, academically gifted and talented. Got straight A's. I did very well. And writing and English was a good part of that, because where I grew up, everybody talked in a slang, a type of local Ebonics, and we called it Pidgin English. It wasn't proper English. It was a combination of English and a shortcut, just like Spanglish, but it wasn't. And I wanted to make sure I spoke proper English. So when I became professional, when I started my career, I could speak to the interviewer and speak to my coworkers and speak to a supervisor properly. So I learned English. This was one of my better subjects. I was really good at creative writing. And because of this, I befriended a lot of officers because they would have to write reports. They would have to write an incident report because an inmate got into a fight with another, or a memo, or document something that happened. And they asked me to proofread it. I would give my ideas, my tips, my suggestions, editing style, and fix theirs to make it presentable to hand over to their superior, their sergeant. And because of this, I gained their respect. So I had the respect of the inmates and the respect of the officers, and started this new career in law and medicine. And I loved it. And this is where my journey began.